early memories, creativity, a lot of it would be like writing stories and illustrating them. I remember like the Man into Pirates, like a really young age, and doing like little pirate stories and drawing the pictures and all that. And they were just, and then getting your mom to staple them together and making a little book out of it. That'll be the earliest memory of being like actively creating something beyond just like a doodle or whatever else.
I get the vibe that you're a writer first, like it's a bigger part of your identity than maybe is obvious.
That's pretty spot on. Yeah, it's my favorite thing, probably my favorite thing to do, or the thing I find most satisfying, and it's certainly the one I've been kind of actively working on and chasing the most from the start, really. But I like stuff in development now and things like that, like scripts and things like that, and so it feels like for the first time that it deserves to be up front, because before it was like, this is what I'm working towards, this is what I'm doing, whereas the other stuff maybe I was doing more of. But now, like this year, it's been predominantly development stuff, writing stuff, which has been great.
And what do you think it was in the beginning that drew you to writing specifically?
I don't know. I just love and love reading, and I like, there's certain types of stories that I just love. Like I love, and I guess it's just like loving something, and some people just love something and that's enough. For me, with stuff like that, it's like I love it and I want to do it, and that's the curse. But yes, no, like you can't just enjoy the thing. You have to enjoy the thing. I have other stuff where I can just enjoy, but we're writing it was I want to do it, and like then over the years, then getting into film and stuff like that, it became screenwriting, and now that's been the focus, like kind of writing, be it a play or be it a screenplay. Like if you're writing for actors, and it's predominantly like, it's dialogue and it's action rather than prose, shall we say. But I like, whereas now, like now I'm a lot more, I read books, but I'm reading them for enjoyment, and I'm like, I know myself enough that I don't know, could I sit down and actually write a book?
Yeah, it's funny. And just on that idea of going from just loving something to like actually wanting to do it yourself and replicate its effect, I think, at least for me, it was like the first welcomed challenge. Like it was something that seemed hard and mysterious, but also like really fun to try and figure out how to do it. And I suppose that's where the addiction part comes into play, because, there's so many forms writing or art in general can take, that it's like exciting to chase and find that niche where you can succeed.
And then when you find what that is, if you're lucky enough that you find what your skill, where your skill set lies, or what you like talking about, or whatever it is, that's when it's like, oh God, it's like kind of the dam bursts, and you can have you can just, it's the best feeling, because you're like, oh God, I actually, I would, because you can tell yourself, you have to delude yourself for a while, but eventually you're like, am I deluding myself? I should, like, maybe. And then if you land on the thing that you were meant to be doing all along, the kind of the thing that you're good at, or the thing you're able to speak on, or whatever the case may be, or the thing you just like have a lot of material on, the subject matter or the genre or whatever it is, then it's like, okay, I found what I should be doing. That's a great feeling.
And so how did that feeling come for the performing side of things and the comedy side of things?
I mean, the acting was probably alongside the writing for a long time, but I just didn't. It was a close second, and it wasn't something that I was pursuing in terms of like saying it out loud almost. But I did a lot of it. I did loads of it in other people's stuff in college and stuff like that. So like it did film in college, but like it's I love acting, and I think I'm a better actor than I am a writer, in a weird way. That's not to say I'm good or anything, but I just definitely think that it comes more naturally than the writing does. Where the stand up kind of comedy stuff, that's more so, that came by, I love it, but like it came by more so through, it's a byproduct of other things I was doing. It's those rather than the kind of, whereas the others are the art forms that I'm like, I want to know how they work. Like study film, I want to write and direct, and I want to act in people's things. And it was like, those are the things that I was studying and I was like soaking up, and just, whereas like stand up is not necessarily, I wasn't pursuing it in the same way, even though now it's probably what I do the most.
I'd say there's an interesting feedback loop there when you're writing for yourself to perform, because it's, it's like both interests are being showcased at the same time.
That's, well, I always say like those sketches that I do online, they're like writing and acting samples, almost like they're like me showing my wares in these little like 2 minute or 1 minute, whatever they are, pockets. So that's good. So I'm always approaching it as a writer and an actor, rather than like, I have a funny idea. Well, not always. Like sometimes it's just a funny, stupid idea. But like, so the ones where it's more character based, I'm always kind of like, they're trying to kind of show. I always say try and do Raging Bull in 2 minutes, but that's the kind of, it's just that's basically what I'm going for.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that approach is why maybe your videos stand out, like, especially coming from the writing side of things, where for the most part it is more than just a irreverent video. It's like a well thought out phrase and line that gets stuck in people's heads. And then plus on top of that, like, you're referencing Raging Bull and De Niro. It is like there's that added intensity and commitment to your performance of it all.
That's the goal, and that's the kind of, not that the goal is to be De Niro, but it's like, I mean, I suppose it's not the goal. But it's I guess it's like you just want to make something that A, you'd want to make, and B, you'd want to watch. And that's, you just you have to kind of follow your own weird interests and fascinations. And like, if you want to make you want to write, if you like talking about, I don't know, whatever it may be, weird dark pockets of men's brains, but just do it, just have 3 funny lines in there, and then it'll buy you the rest of it.
Right.
If you kind of give 3 laughs throughout, it's like that'll buy you you can go as kind of out there and as you want.
I feel like your sense of humor, for the most part, I mean, there's that darker side to it as well, but like, I feel like for the most part, your sense of humor is quite meta.
Yeah.
And some of the things that, like, I personally find the most funny are your jokes on people who make certain types of jokes, thinking they're being original, but also just like using the joke as a way to be involved in a conversation or be noticed or something. And it's definitely something everyone does, but like the toy show sketch is the most recent example I can think of where after watching that video, you can't ever say that joke again without thinking Peter McGann has already exposed the cliched, banal aspect of this statement.
That's my intention, to just make people feel that feel stupid. No, it's not. But yeah, it's yeah, I do like, I guess it's just, you can only ever, you only ever should do what you find funny or interesting, and what riles you up or whatever. And yeah, that's, I can't explain. I don't have any grand reasoning other than like, get some like goat, that sort of thing, or like just there's like certain like just stock things that Irish people say, they're kind of, that aren't we a gas altogether. And it's just sometimes you just need to kind of have a release valve to kind of to vent a bit. But I don't also like, I don't ever want to just, you don't ever want to be the person who's just just mocking other things, right? Because that way, that's just, you're just on a hiding to nothing, because you're just depending on the stuff that annoys you to make your work, and that's not how it's to be.
But that's where the writing side of it comes in. That's where like the skill of picking the right idea at the right time and presenting it in an engaging way, divides the line between it being a comment on something versus just like, I'm just going to bully these people.
Yeah, there has to be another layer to it, and another wrinkle to it, so it's not just you like, like kind of giving someone a metaphorical
Yeah.
nuggie.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're kind of like, where you're just like, you said this, you said this. It's like, there needs to be some weird little twist to it as well.
Mm. And just to backtrack a little bit, you said you studied filmmaking in college?
I did film and TV production in Galway in GMIT, and then I did a master's in screenwriting in NUI after, I not straight after, a year or two after.
And how did you find those experiences?
Good, yeah. I made at least one of my best mates ever, and then and just another kind of a great bunch of people, and I guess it gave me. It wasn't the first course. It wasn't exactly the most maybe creatively stimulating. Like, it was, a lot of it was technical or whatever. But when I got out of college, I just was making stuff constantly, like, you know, and I had somewhat of the confidence of that from college.
And what kind of stuff was this? Was this writing or films?
I was making short films and I was making sketches. I was living in Galway, and there's this thing called called Little Cinema, ran by a guy called Kenny Gon, who's a pal, and he was basically, it was a monthly film club where people make a film and you can submit them. Awesome. And that they're shown, they're, you know, 9 times out of 10 he'll show them, and it started off in a pub. It was just great. It was like, you know, it was a proper community of filmmakers, and people helped out in each other's films. And like, the cool thing was there was little like groups, and like every group had their, like, almost, you almost could, even though there was people doing different things, it was everyone had their own, like, you know, sensibility and sense, which was cool. And then there was like people submitting one-offs, and there was some awful shite. So like, there was the quality control by its nature. A monthly film club was not, but it meant that I became kind of a one-man band, and I basically wanted to have something in every single month, be it a sketch, be it a short. So I just was making stuff constantly. I was working in the bars in Galway at the time, I would imagine, or maybe the hospital, maybe a bit of both, as a porter. But and then in every free moment, I was just shooting stuff, and like, whereas a lot of people were like different, like, small groups, I was like, it was me and like my old DSLR camera, and I was shooting stuff, and I was getting other people to act in it, or I was acting in them as well, and I was editing it, and I was writing it all. So it was just like constantly making stuff, and it was amazing.
And were there common themes across the different things you were making, or was every single one its own animal?
Like, my stuff, you can, like, there was definitely common themes. It was like men, damaged Irish men, and it was always comedic.
Right.
I don't think I ever did something not comedic, and yeah, you're feeling your own. It's like, a lot of it is unwatchable now, but for whatever reason. But like, it was a great. It was like, if you're making that kind of stuff, that stuff, that constantly, like, you can't not find your voice. You can't not find what you like talking about, because you're writing something so quickly. I have to do something. So you're like, whatever is your impulses are, your interests are, that's what you're going to write about. And kind of like, and like this, I worked briefly on the door of the college bar in NUI, and from talking to a couple of bouncers there, I wrote this bouncer short film about this head the ball bouncer, which I shot. I played the bouncer, and then again, I just shot it DIY, like, around Galway over a course of like 2 days or whatever. And then I wrote something else with the bouncer years later. The character stuck with me, and I wrote a pilot, which I sold to a production company. And that, so like, even when you're just like, even these, like, they were like rough drafts for something that would go on to become actual kind of things that's gonna, you were getting paid to do, which was incredible, is incredible to think that, like, me and my horrible damn flat in Galway, kind of editing these things that you just shot, running gun around the streets, and then years from now, someone actually will be like, yeah, let's make something not based off of that, but based, like, the character from something that sprung from that, which I think is pretty special.
I think those periods of doing it yourself and leaning into creative freedom are so important. Like, because, you know, as you say, you're getting the most raw version of your creative voice. And so it's easier to sort of notice it, and like the energy of the project isn't immediately being dispersed among so many different minds.
Completely, and like you're not kind of trying to impress a funding body or something like that. It's like it can't not be. You're doing something wrong if it's not like the purest version of your voice. And like as a result, like I have never directed a funded short, and it's directing is something that kind of fell by the wayside. Which funny because writing and direct, that was the kind of goal, and just fell by the wayside for good reasons. You know, the other stuff was kind of taken off for doing well or whatever. But I miss it, and it's a kind of, I wish I did it up to a point, and when it's like I would love to direct something on, but like where there was like there's crews and a crew and a cast of not your mates or people, you know. It's a lot, but yeah, it was it was an amazing time when I think back, just to be just like just to be making that amount of stuff, and to be seeing what everyone else is doing and being inspired by the people, and yeah, it was great.
That's great. I think just hearing you say all that, it's reminding me of something I've been thinking about recently, which is you can have a certain vision of your life, I think, when you're younger. And it does take courage to lean into other things where the road is opening up more for whatever reason. Like I've always wanted to be a writer director. Like I wanted to be, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson, but it got to a point almost like an identity crisis where I was like, if I'm not just pursuing that, even just that sentence in my head, then I don't really know who I am, or, you know, like, and even just hearing you speak on your experience, and it's something, you know, again, like I say, I've been thinking about it. You got to find your own way to that end goal, and maybe diverging from what you think that path is and following things that are taking you off will actually land you in a better position to achieve that original goal, if that's, you know, what you still want.
Well, I think that definitely, and I think when you're young, like I was like that. Like, oh, in my head, I was like, why isn't everyone like Paul Thomas Anderson? Why did he only choose to be Paul? And then you kind of, as you get older and you do more, you're like, oh no, there's a reason. And, you know, it's
Yeah.
and yeah, and the more you work, and the deeper you get into your career, you realize, you know, it's a miracle. There's even one of that person, for a million reasons, you know, kind of systemic reasons, and like, you know, business reasons, and also creative reasons, like someone who has that confidence in their voice to kind of just go their own way, and I and so it is, it's kind of nice then, because you're like, okay, the pressure's off a bit.
Yeah.
It's like when I turned 30, I was like, well, now I don't have to worry about making my first feature in my 20s, which was hanging over me
Yeah.
until then. So, and you know, and it's not the most kind of competitive thing in like, you know, trait, but I just I was like, this was not, it was nice. It was nice to not have to feel the pressure to be the special boy in my 20s.
And so are the projects you're working on now sort of working back towards that goal of directing?
That's some of the things in development now are that's the intention with them, to write, direct, and act, or something, just write, direct. So it's all, that's the kind of me cashing the check of minor internet fame. That's how I wanted to cash it, was like to get projects of what were scripts of mine kind of up and running, and ideas, see if I can get them made. And so far it's taken long, but again, you cannot ever get your hopes up, ever. That's something as well. You can never ever feel any kind of excitement or enjoy. No, I'm joking, but nothing feels guaranteed.
Right. So the interest in film, did that begin at a young age too, or was it later, like in college, or?
No, it was before college. I don't know, and I remember I was a old kid, young teenager maybe, when I started to seriously get really interested in film. I can't remember what sparked it, but um, yeah, that's that was the kind of, I was all in then, you know, you're kind of all in on this. I love film history and I still do, and like I just, all that stuff. I just kind of, the mystique of the director, obviously that's always appealing, and then just I would read a lot of like film criticism, nothing too highbrow, but like, you know, I was like Roger Ebert, stuff like that, and I was like, that was a way of learning about films, and I just started educating myself watching the films and stuff like that. I watch films and like knowing their place in history, in the film history as well, which I kind of, so nothing, none of the, like, often the films were rarely just the film. Like I was all interested in like the story behind. So that all of that stuff kind of just, you know, you're that age, you're impressed when you find this world that you want to educate yourself on. And that was it.
I think film really is a special kind of art form in that way, where it offers so many routes in, like whether it be through, you know, acting or music or photography or theory. There's just so much expansive lore to become obsessed with.
Oh yeah, I think that's it. It's it's kind of like seeing like the kind of the why certain films like were made in the studios, and finding out about the studio system, Hollywood in like the 30s and 40s and 50s. You're like, that's such an interesting, even if you don't even watch the films, that's an interesting, fascinating way to, for creative people in like this kind of capitalist like machine, that's it, to work. Like it's like constantly like on this kind of like kind of factory line of filmmaking, but also you get these incredible like incredibly expressive kind of films often out of it. So like all that stuff intrigued me, and like, you know, the beyond the film. So I think uh, it's like, you know, I don't know much about music, but music, I feel like it's the same thing if you're like a music obsessive. It's like, it's people need to know the nuts and bolts of the album. People seldom just listen to an album. They want to know the whys and wherefores, and like how it was made, and who was in the recording studio, and who played on what. Yeah.
And so, what were the first few films that you can remember watching and being like, oh, okay, I might be becoming obsessed with this?
Yeah. I mean, the things, the films where it was like, oh well, that's someone made this. I mean, it's one, a go-to one for everyone, for a lot of people. But like, I remember seeing The Good, the Bad, the Ugly on Gigi Carr, and be like, oh, so like this is incredible. And why don't all movies look like this? Again, it's the thing that when you don't know any better, you're like, why doesn't everyone just make every film look like this? So that was a big one, and Mean Streets, Goodfellas, TCM. Basically, I watched TCM. That was the one movie channel we had, and I just watched it all the time. And so I was seeing a lot of the old school ones, like kind of Jimmy Cagney movies and stuff like that. But I would say The Good, the Bad, the Ugly kind of blew the back doors open. Like, I'm just like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the perfect crossroads for film, you know, like the performances are great. The way it looks is incredible. You have the Morricone score, and, you know, like you say, it's like if you'd never seen a film before and you watch that, you'd be like, oh, everybody else is missing a trick. All I have to do is make something like this.
Exactly, yeah. Because everything's front loaded. It's like this, the score is like front and center. The actors are front and center. The camera work is front and center. Everything is just, nothing is taking a back seat. The editing is so like clearly, and like the, you know, it's a very showy, effective kind of feast of a movie. Like everything is getting its time in the sun. So you're kind of like, you're just really aware of the people making it, and the vision behind it, Sergio Leone's vision. So it's incredible. It's so enticing and so like inspiring.
Yeah. I remember listening to the score before ever watching the film. I think my dad might have shown it to me when I was really young, and being like, what the fuck is this? And then obviously when you watch the film and all the other senses are engaged, it's like surreal,
Yeah.
you know? Same with the Hitchcock film. You watch that and you're just like, this is a guide on how to make a film, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. I always think Hitchcock is like the guy who if you don't know, if you're like stuck on a scene, like how would Hitchcock do it? How would you approximate an Alfred Hitchcock version of it?
Yeah.
See, it's like filmmaking 101, and that sounds reductive, but what I mean is, it's just like he is just, it's just this like level of kind of craft, and just that's, and there's so much more to him than that, but at a basic level, it's like, oh, he knows exactly how to tell the story as a film.
Right. It's just like true mastery of that particular craft.
Yeah.
And so just backtracking for a second. So there was this interest in film alongside the passion for writing. And then there was college and your own short films. And then did it go stand up first or was it sketches first?
Well, I mean, I was doing making sketches in Galway, just like not front facing. That, I don't think that necessarily existed. They're just like, pretty traditional filmed sketches. And then the stand up started. I was doing kind of character stand up when I first moved to Dublin. And then when I started doing the front facing sketches, and they took off. And then when after kind of lockdown, I was going back to the stand up, I decided, because people knew my name now a bit more from the sketches, I was just going to start doing stand up under my own name. It would be kind of a wasted opportunity not to. So kind of stand up is, if anything, it's last after everything in terms of like when it came along. So I feel like I constantly feel on the back foot a bit with it.
Interesting. Because I think even just watching some of your shows, you've managed to bring your online style of humor to the stage without like losing its essence, like what we talked about earlier in terms of that more meta style. Like it's not just guy observing something,
Yeah, no, that's good. I that was my hope, was like just the feel of the sketches, honestly. Yeah, I just don't, I kind of, I run from anything that just starts feeling just like a stand up. But that sounds so pretentious, but it's, I don't mean it to be pretentious. My stuff is not highbrow in the slice. It's very stupid. All I want to do is be funny. I don't have any grand mission statement with the stand up, whatever. I just want to be silly and funny on stage. But like, if something starts veering into just me describing my life, or me, this, I run a mile from it.
Interesting.
That's not how I want to do this stuff, because like, it's all the other stuff I do, it's, you're expressing yourself, but you're expressing yourself in disguise. And stand up, the disguise is a lot kind of thinner. So I try and bring it, disguise it as much as I can, and not kind of show be me, or kind of be just, this is Peter McGann and these are his thoughts.
And how do you find that division? Like, do you find audiences sometimes don't cop that this is an entirely different version of yourself?
Yeah, that definitely. I mean, that happens all the time in the sketches. The stand-up is different, because unless I'm doing a character, I mean, it is effectively me, so that's fine. And I'm not gonna, for the most part, I think I can be clear about what, if I'm saying something outrageous or outlandish, that people aren't gonna be like, he believes this to be true. But like with the sketches, I mean, it happens constantly, just people thinking. To your thing about the stuff that's like the commentary, like the meta kind of stuff, like people just take it as all that kind of stuff.
They take it at face value.
Yeah, constantly.
Which is interesting. I feel like a lot of your sketches and jokes are sort of designed to make people feel, as though like they're in the know on something, or they know about some niche trait, like there's always that angle or that subtext to it.
Completely. And like, I try and make it, I try and give as much kind of proof that it's not me, or there's like it's but like, still people are going to just,
that's art though, isn't it? It's,
I mean, yeah, and they don't owe me any more thought than, like, I'm not kind of scoffing at that. I'm like, it's just, people aren't, you can't expect, especially on Instagram, you can't expect people to engage any more than a couple of seconds off. So like, I don't, it's just the way it is. It's kind of,
I think to your point about disguising the expression as well, like you sort of do so in a way that's, all pervasive in that the characters you play, even aside from the sketches, like in TV shows, like Good Boy or Small Town Big Story, they're often extremely varied in nature, plus your stand-up persona. It just feels like whenever you go to one of your performances or characters, you're getting something vastly different every time.
That's good. That's what I hope anyway. And it's the kind of, to me, that's obviously like, it's the fun of being an actor, is like getting to do very different parts. But I think, like, if you're going to do something that is kind of connect with people, it has to come from a kind of your experience, or at least your kind of observed experience, or whatever. It needs to come from a real place. And I only have so much. So I only have my own perspective, and so inevitably that's going to come out through the characters, even if they're different themselves.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably through lines there, but on a surface level and like stuff like that, I like mixing it up.
Mm. And if you were to take on a character, say in this medium, who's closer to who you naturally are, do you think that would be easier, or something you steer away from, or?
No, I think it'd be easy from just in the literal sense that I wouldn't have to reach too far in terms of, just kind of my understanding. Like, I think I'm developing at the minute a feature will be very personal and close to me, but he's also a character from one of my from some of my sketches. So it's like he is a silly kind of comedic character, but like in terms of like the stuff so it's like the worst version of me.
Right.
So, but it's still a version of me.
Yeah.
So like I wouldn't be against that at all. No, I kind of a bit like I do like the thought of it, and like as much as I do like kind of changing it up and been wearing funny wigs or whatever it may be.
And it's also more vulnerable to like take on characters that might be closer to who you are. There's sort of less to hide behind in that sense.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, as in, even if you're playing like someone close to you and in something, there's the script there, and there's a story that there are these things that are kind of protecting. But like, stand up again, it is that bit more exposed.
Right. And do you write scripts for your sketches, or is it mostly improv, or what's your process when it comes to that?
It depends, and it's evolved over time. Now it depends what the sketch is. If it's like just a funny kind of thought or whatever, sometimes that's like you just go and shoot it. But if it's one of the kind of character stuff, it used to be they'd have to be fully scripted. Now I will write out the beats and have like maybe the knowledge that there are like I write like maybe 4 or 5 funny lines, or like and like know where they're placed, so it kind of has a bit of, and then just kind of go from there. It depends. Sometimes I write the whole thing out still, but some of the stuff like I did, like filtered out and stuff, that would be just written and rewritten and rewritten and rewritten and changed, and it just would be like for what it would end up being. It would just be but it would need it to be, because if you're doing something that requires like you're packing in a story and multiple characters, and like everything needs to make sense, everything needs to be funny, everything needs to be sad, and it all needs to work within 2 minutes. And so like that stuff had to be written and had to be rewritten and had to be kind of refined. So there was no other way to do it, really.
Right.
We couldn't just be shooting that off the dome, really.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that you edit these things over and over again. Is the sign that something's ready to release sort of that you're still laughing at it on the 7th watch, or do you think about that at all?
Yeah, I mean, like it would be rare that I wouldn't put something that I shot up, because whatever, it's a 2-minute sketch, so you may as well. But like it's I don't know, it depends. It really depends. It's like it's all instinctual. All that stuff is just all instinctual. You're like, this makes me laugh, so it'll make someone laugh, or it'll appeal to someone, or this will be appeal to loads of people, or not loads, but for me loads. And so then maybe if it's kind of a broader idea, maybe kind of double down in other areas with kind of the darkness or the kind of surreal. That's
I think the darkness is another interesting aspect to your comedy because, and this is something I wanted to ask you about, there's a connection between comedy and rage because most of your characters seem to have this quiet, sometimes not so quiet, desperation,
yeah.
and they all seem to be sort of like on the edge of absolutely losing it, you know, like even going all the way back to the work Christmas party sketch, you know, that character is on the verge of killing someone.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's I always think like it's like half of my characters are like a hair's breadth from murdering their family. Like, you know, yeah. And so like that's I just like it's you use the tools that are in your toolbox, you know, and it's just kind of the capacity for quick rage is there, and I find it very funny, and it's like because it's not like what I don't find funny is righteous raging where it's like someone been funny and they're raging about. I mean, I'm not saying it can never be funny, but it's not something that necessarily. What it's funny is someone raging at the wrong thing,
Yeah.
or they don't even know they're rage. You know, that's interesting to me. Impotent kind of frustrated rage.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love rage. I love acting it. I love writing. I like it. It's just such a fun, rich vein to mine.
Amazing. I suppose just to sort of conclude then, I wanted to ask you if there were any sort of lessons or insights that you've gained about creativity, whether that be like in general or your own personal process that have, you know, helped you to continue to do what you do and make stuff.
I mean, I guess it's like this might this might be trite, but it's how it is how I feel. Where it just I think like the best thing that I ever did was just make stuff that I was interested in and what I would want to see. And that sounds trite, but it is. You will find like it is just guaranteed that if you do a good job with it, if you have enough skill and talent that you can not make a hames of it, someone will connect to it. And like it might not be the most people in the world, but there will be somewhat of an audience or a community that will embrace it. And I just think I was never like not chasing not trying to gain the system in that way. Again, you not trying to gain your creativity. Like be as savvy as you want in other regards, or be, you know, but with your creativity is like don't try and second guess stuff, or don't try and be just like obviously push yourself, obviously try different things, but just kind of, you know, if you are lucky enough to have something to say or have somewhat of a voice or it's like, you know, develop it and put it out.